chosen one. If these words have reached you, understand this truth. Heaven does not whisper by accident. What you're hearing now isn't noise, it's alignment, it's divine timing. The kind that doesn't knock loudly but waits patiently until the right spirit is listening. And today, that spirit is you. This isn't just another message floating in the digital void. No, this is a release. A spiritual key, long held in waiting, now turning gently in the lock of your soul. Before you were born, before your name was ever spoken, this moment was prepared. As Psalm 139:16 says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." And today, a page is turning. You are not here by chance. You are not forgotten, overlooked, or delayed. You have been preserved, kept, hidden in plain sight for such a time as this. Every silent tear you've cried in the night, every moment you questioned your worth, every prayer whispered into what felt like empty space. Heaven heard it all, and now the silence is breaking. What once felt like delay was divine preparation. The wilderness was not punishment, it was formation, and now your season is shifting. Isaiah 60:22 reminds us, when the time is right, the Lord, will make it happen. Chosen one, that time is now. The doors that wouldn't budge before will open with ease. The heaviness that has clung to you will lift. What you carry is about to carry you. So now, as you step forward into this divine turning point, make it known. Let the heavens and the unseen realm bear witness to your readiness. Type Amen in the comments as a sign of agreement, a declaration that you are stepping into your God-ordained purpose. And stay with me until the very end. We'll close today with a prayer that seals this word over your life. This is more than a message. This is a shift. Let it begin. You may not see it yet, but the wilderness you've been walking through has been growing roots of strength under your feet. God has not ignored your struggle, nor has He been silent by accident. The pauses in your journey were not because He forgot, but because He was forming something in you too heavy to be rushed. Just as Moses spent 40 years in the desert, tending sheep before ever confronting Pharaoh, so have you been entrusted with seasons that felt hidden, stretched, and painfully still. But do not mistake stillness for stagnation. When God is silent, He is often sculpting. There are moments in life when everything external seems frozen, yet inside your spirit, tectonic plates are shifting, priorities change, desires get recalibrated. People you once leaned on drift quietly to the edge. Conversations that once gave you energy now leave you tired, and you start to feel it not as drama or breakdown, but as a gentle dissonance between who you've been and who you're becoming. That space is holy. It's where heaven reshapes identity. This pattern is not unique to you. It runs through every life God has ever trusted with weight. Even Jesus, before beginning His ministry, was led into the wilderness, not by accident, not by rebellion, but by the Spirit. There, with no audience, no applause, and nothing but the presence of His Father and the pressure of temptation, He emerged with authority no crowd could give. This is the blueprint, the journey before the unveiling, and those who are truly called often walk it quietly. Perhaps you've been wrestling with loneliness, not as sadness, but as separation. You're not broken, you're being carved. You're the purpose He's placed within you. Proverbs 4:25-26 says, "Let your eyes look straight ahead, fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet and be steadfast in all your ways." He is not just guiding your steps, He's guiding your focus. And in this hidden place, He is doing something the public will not understand when they finally see you. He is building in you a depth that won't collapse when the stage comes. Authority that hasn't been shaped in private will crumble in public. God knows this. That is why you've been kept away from certain platforms, certain people, certain positions, not because you're behind, but because you're being anchored. When Esther was taken into the palace, she didn't step into royalty overnight. She spent a year in preparation, learning how to carry the role she'd been born for. That season wasn't punishment. It was sacred refinement, and so it is with you. The silence around you is not absence. It is the sound of heaven at work. Psalm 27:14 reminds us, wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Waiting for the chosen is not passive. It is active trust. It is obedience in the dark. It is faith without evidence. And maybe no one around you sees the battle you're fighting just to stay grounded. Maybe you've been showing up, loving others, staying faithful, even when your heart is heavy. That doesn't go unnoticed. Heaven keeps record of what earth overlooks, and in the fullness of time, what was done in secret will overflow. There is a kind of peace that doesn't always feel like comfort. Sometimes it feels like release when the things you used to crave no longer hold you, when the people who once understood you can no longer follow. That too is peace. The peace that surpasses understanding doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it comes with surrender. You are not built for the ordinary. That's why ordinary things no longer satisfy. You weren't created to follow a common path. That's why detours became your training ground. What's forming in you is too important to be shaped by noise. It requires quiet. And if it feels like no one sees the cost you're paying in this season, take heart. The one who called you sees everything, and he wastes nothing. Chosen one, your isolation has been holy ground. The questions you've whispered in the dark have echoed in heaven. And though answers haven't always come in your timing, the presence of God has never left you. Even when you couldn't feel it, even when the silence felt cruel, He was there, forming, watching, trusting you with the weight of becoming. This is not the end of your story. It is the preparation before the reveal. And when the time comes, you will not step into your calling with arrogance or fear, but with the quiet confidence of someone who has walked with God through fire and come out refined, not burned, better. Let them wonder how you held on. Let them ask how you made it through. The answer will never be about strength. It will always be about grace, for it was never your fight to win. It was His to finish through you. What's arriving in your life now isn't random breakthrough. It's the unfolding of something that's been waiting for your readiness. The dry season that made you question everything, the one that seemed like God had gone silent, was never punishment. It was pressure, refining the shape of your soul to hold what's coming. In stillness, your roots grew deeper. In silence, your ears became tuned to whispers others would miss. Think of Noah. He built the ark without evidence of rain, no forecast, no signs, just a word from God and a strange assignment. He wasn't building for the moment. He was building for what was coming, and so have you. Without even realizing it, every loss you endured, every room you were left out of, every delayed answer was crafting a vessel sturdy enough to carry what's next. And now something is shifting, not just around you, but within you. There's a rising, a holy tension, a sense that what once satisfied no longer fits. That where you've been cannot hold where you're going. That sense is not confusion, it's confirmation. The old container can't hold the new oil. Scripture reminds us in Job 23:1, but He knows the way that I take. When He has tested me, I will come forth as gold. You have not wandered aimlessly. You've been refined in fire, and what's emerging now is not the worn-out version of you, but the gold beneath the ash. There is a kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself with noise. It begins in whispers, in restlessness, in longing, in moments when you feel stretched without explanation. And then, suddenly, it breaks open. The chains that held you, the unseen fears, the limiting beliefs, the generational burdens begin to crack under the weight of heaven's voice. God has not forgotten the tears you cried in secret. He has not overlooked the nights you wrestled with silence. What you called unanswered prayers, He called hidden work. And now the answer is coming not as relief, but as release. Not as rescue, but as revealing. Because the blessing you're stepping into isn't something that will save you, it's something you were born to steward. Like Ruth, cleaning in the fields, unaware that her faithfulness in the mundane was aligning her with destiny. You have been faithfully gathering in quiet fields. And now the harvest is near. The provision, the clarity, the divine relationships, the doors that only God can open. This isn't a season of explanation. It's a season of revelation. Not everyone will understand what you carry, and that's okay. Revelation is personal. This truth isn't meant to be stored. It's meant to shape you, not for applause, but for alignment. You may feel the urge to hide this word, to hold it close, even to remove it, because what's sacred isn't always meant to be shared. That instinct isn't fear, it's reverence. Some things from heaven are too intimate for the noise of the world, and your calling is one of them. So, receive this not just as information, but as confirmation. The floodgates are opening, not just for blessing, but for becoming. And the version of you that emerges from this moment will carry an authority that wasn't learned. It was lived, hidden in the silence, refined in the fire, and now revealed by the hand of God. The word favor is often misunderstood. It's painted as ease, as effortless gain, as divine acceleration without resistance. But those who have truly walked in favor, those marked by heaven's hand, know it tells a different story. Favor is not featherlight. It carries a sacred weight, not to elevate ego, but to test character. And only those strengthened in the unseen places can carry it without collapse. What the world calls blessing is often pressure dressed in beauty, because favor, real favor, does not simply add to your life, it stretches it. It brings opportunities, yes, but it also brings responsibility. And with that responsibility comes exposure. You see, favor shines a light not only on your gifts, but on your heart. It amplifies what's hidden. The applause may grow louder, but so does the testing. In the early days of Samuel's life, when God called him by name in the quiet of the night, Scripture says Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with people, 1 Samuel 2:26. But that growth did not happen in the spotlight. It was cultivated in silence under the mentorship of Eli, in the presence of God, before the people ever listened to his voice. His favor was not granted suddenly. It was grown in layers, carefully, deliberately. That's why God delays not to withhold, but to protect. He waits until your foundation is ready, until the inner structure of your life can bear the outer blessing He's about to release. Because increase without preparation doesn't lift, it crushes. And what looks like divine silence is often divine reinforcement. When you prayed for more influence, more opportunity, more clarity, you might not have realized that more also means magnification. And magnification doesn't just enlarge success, it reveals weakness. It tests the private places of the soul, the spaces where no one claps. That's why God is patient with His promises. He's more concerned with longevity than speed. Think of King Hezekiah. He was a man of faith, a reformer, one who tore down idols and led Judah back to truth. But when favor expanded his reach and blessings overflowed, Scripture says, God left him to test him and know everything that was in his heart. 2 Chronicles 32-31, not to punish, to reveal. Because favor without self-awareness leads to self-destruction. So if you felt the ache of delay, the sting of promises not yet fulfilled, don't rush to frustration. Heaven is not behind schedule. Timing in God's kingdom is not random, it is calibration. Not just of events, but of your inner life. The waiting has been doing something. It has been forming the kind of strength that doesn't flinch when blessing comes. Favor is not about public applause, it's about private integrity. It's about learning how to carry visibility without losing your voice, how to lead without becoming addicted to control, how to serve without silently demanding reward. That's why testing always precedes release. God is not only measuring your potential, He's refining your posture. And when the door finally opens, when the dream finally breathes, you'll know it wasn't sudden. It was layered. It was earned through trust, through surrender, through quiet obedience. You'll look back and understand that every delay was doing something holy, preparing you to be the kind of vessel that doesn't crack under favor's weight. Blessing, when aligned with God's heart, doesn't inflate the ego, it deepens the anchor. It doesn't distract from your calling, it reveals it. It doesn't make you more important, it makes you more available, more aware, more responsible. So if you sense something approaching, if you feel the stirring of breakthrough but can't yet touch it, know this: God is not far off, He is finalizing the last details. Heaven is matching the size of your assignment with the strength of your soul, and when it comes, it will not be too much. It will not arrive too early, it will fit you perfectly. Because the blessing isn't meant to change who you are, it's meant to reveal who you've become. Close your eyes not to escape the world, but to see beyond it. Imagine, just for a moment, a life not shaped by fear or lack or striving, but one rooted in quiet strength. A life where every step feels guided, where provision isn't frantic but faithful, and where your existence is no longer about surviving but embodying something sacred. Imagine walking through this world as someone who no longer doubts their worth, no longer questions if they are enough, because they know deep in their bones they were born for more than just getting by. This is not a fantasy. This is alignment with divine reality. This is what happens when heaven's truth begins to replace the noise of the world. There is a version of you that the world has not yet fully seen, and perhaps neither have you. Not because it isn't there, but because it has been buried under layers of rejection, performance, disappointment, and fear. But when God breathes truth into dry places, identity begins to rise. Ezekiel was told to prophesy over dry bones, to speak to something that looked beyond hope. And as he obeyed, the bones came together, flesh formed, breath returned. Ezekiel 37. What looked dead was never beyond redemption, it was simply waiting for a word. And maybe, just maybe, that's what this moment is for. A word to awaken what life tried to bury. You were not created to shrink in rooms where you were born to speak. You were not designed to tiptoe through life, afraid of your light offending those still committed to darkness. You were born to carry something glory, wisdom, healing, clarity that only you can carry in your own way. And it has nothing to do with being perfect or polished. It has everything to do with being real, being present, being willing. Many of those marked by God carry something the world doesn't understand. It often begins with awareness, a kind of spiritual sensitivity that can't be explained logically. You feel the undercurrents. You notice the silence behind someone's smile. You pick up on changes in atmosphere that others dismiss. This is not weakness, it is wiring. And while it may make you feel different or even isolated, it's a sign of purpose, not brokenness. Joseph dreamed before he had language for what those dreams meant. And that sensitivity caused his own brothers to reject him. But the dream didn't die. It simply traveled through time, pressure, betrayal, and silence before unfolding into reality. Some of the most chosen people feel the most misunderstood because their inner life is tuned to a frequency that others are not yet ready to hear. Spiritual awareness is a gift, but unguarded, it can also become exhausting. You carry more, you feel more, and you process life with greater depth than many around you. This is why your rest cannot look like everyone else's. The chosen are not just called to do more. They're called to be more, not in terms of status, but in capacity. But that capacity must be nurtured. Elijah, after outrunning chariots and calling down fire, found himself so depleted that he begged God to take his life. And what did God do? He didn't rebuke him. He sent an angel to feed him twice and told him to rest. 1 Kings 19:5-8. Even the boldest need recovery. Awareness must be matched with grounding. Sensitivity must be partnered with stillness. Discernment without wisdom turns to fear. Emotion without spiritual anchoring turns to anxiety. And that's why God trains those he trusts. He doesn't just hand over spiritual gifts, He walks you through the slow process of learning how to carry them without collapsing. He teaches you how to see without being overwhelmed, how to care without being consumed. Identity, when formed by divine truth, becomes unshakable. Not arrogant, not loud, but steady. You no longer feel the need to perform or explain. You walk in rooms and know who you are not because the room affirms it, but because heaven already has. You recognize that the weight you carry is not a burden to hide, but a calling to honor. This is why increase must come after identity. Because abundance doesn't create clarity, it reveals it. Without identity, overflow confuses. With identity, it empowers. When you know who you are, you stop chasing open doors and start recognizing which ones were never meant to be walked through in the first place. You stop proving and you start aligning. And this shift, this grounding in identity, creates the kind of life where abundance can flow freely without distorting your vision. You were never meant to live numb, suppressing your emotions just to make others comfortable. You were never meant to mute your discernment just to stay relatable. You were made to be awake, aware, anchored, and yes, that can feel heavy, but only until you realize that you were never meant to carry it alone. God walks with those He awakens. He strengthens those He sets apart. As you continue to grow, you'll look back and see that what once felt like unbearable weight has become sacred insight. The sensitivity that once overwhelmed you has become the very tool through which God moves. What felt like a curse has become the lens through which you see truth. This is what transformation looks like. This is what healing feels like. And this is what it means to finally become not a copy, not a performance, but a vessel, whole, aware, and fully alive in who you were always meant to be. And now, as awareness begins to settle into your spirit, a shift must take place, a turning from inspiration into embodiment. Because no matter how powerful a moment feels, revelation that stays in emotion will eventually fade, but revelation that is practiced becomes transformation. What marks the truly chosen is not the intensity of their feelings during a divine encounter, but the quiet decisions they make after the encounter ends. When the room is still, the screen goes dark, and life resumes its noise. The sacred call over your life is not sustained by fleeting spiritual highs. It's sustained by alignment, consistent, quiet, faithful alignment with the voice of God moment by moment. This is where your becoming unfolds, not in bursts of inspiration, but in the rhythm of obedience. So, what does alignment look like, not just in theory, but in the everyday where most of life is lived? It begins with stillness, not stillness as escape, but stillness as clarity. In Psalm 46:10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." In the noise of your schedule, in the swirl of your thoughts, carve out one simple moment each day, just 5 minutes of space to ask one honest question. God, what are you asking of me today? Not next year, not in the distant future, just today, and then listen. Not for thunder or flashes of revelation, but for the quiet nudge, the gentle conviction, the whispered instruction. Write it down. Small instructions shape great destinies. Obedience always begins in stillness. Then comes order. Alignment does not wait for the dramatic, it honors the present. In Luke 16:10, Jesus says, "Whoever is faithful with little will also be faithful with much." Many of us look for demonic opposition when, in truth, what delays us is often simple disorder. The drawer left, cluttered, the unfinished task, the hard conversation avoided. Clean what you've got. God entrusts greater assignments to those who steward the ordinary with integrity. Alignment also shapes the way you speak. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue." Words are not neutral, they either build or break. So monitor your language, especially when no one is listening. Replace inner criticism with declaration. When fear rises, speak truth aloud. When doubt whispers, answer with what God has spoken. This is not about performance or forced positivity. This is spiritual reprogramming, training your inner world to match the reality of heaven. Next, alignment asks for movement. Faith does not follow certainty, it precedes it. Hebrews 11:8 tells us that Abraham obeyed and went out, not knowing where he was going. Clarity often comes after motion. If there's a step you've been avoiding, starting something, finishing something, setting a boundary, or returning to God in a practice you've abandoned, take just one action, not all at once. Just enough to say, I'm moving, because heaven meets motion, not hesitation. Then protect what's sacred. Revelation is not for public consumption. In Matthew 7-6, Jesus warns not to throw pearls before swine. What's growing in you is holy. It doesn't need validation to be real. Guard your process. Share only with those who walk in wisdom, humility, and spiritual maturity. God may lead you into strategic silence, not isolation, but preservation. Seeds flourish when hidden in soil before they ever reach the light. And when resistance comes, and it will, don't mistake it for failure. Often, opposition is the confirmation that you are walking in the right direction. James 1-3 reminds us, the testing is this resistance refining in me. Pressure will come not to break you, but to strengthen the frame of who you're becoming. Finally, alignment matures when you shift from inspiration to responsibility. Being chosen does not mean life becomes effortless. It means your life carries more weight. Your words matter more. Your decisions impact further. You are not called to live entitled. You are called to walk humbly. As Micah 6-8 declares, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. When you live this way, still ordered, intentional, responsible, you will notice subtle but undeniable changes. Peace where anxiety used to live. Clarity where confusion once ruled. Open doors that don't require forcing. People arriving in your life who speak the same spiritual language. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. And alignment always comes before acceleration. The truth is, you were never called to just feel inspired. You were called to become someone new.